clearly endgames. Now let's talk about an example where it's not clearly an endgame. This example. Just kidding. So we're going to skip a couple moves, but here's the idea, right? There's this thing which is called an endgame in practice, but it arises on like, what, move 8 or something? Let's see. So this move, knight takes e4, is part of the Berlin defense. It's a Spanish opening variation. And there are many lines of play. I'm not going to talk about all of them, although I would say that bishop c5 is an interesting alternative for black. And d4 is not the only move for white. But after knight d6, countless games, all right, not countless, I'm sure you can count them, many games have been played that reached this position, which is known at the end of move 8 as the Berlin endgame. Good night, Brightly. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you again next time. So this is supposedly an endgame. So what gives, right? We saw an endgame where we have 3 pieces, and then an endgame where we have 4 pieces. And in this endgame, we have 14 pawns alone. 10 of the other pieces, plus the kings, you know? So is this really an endgame, is the question. People call it an endgame, so we have to think about why. The reason people call this an endgame is that it has some endgame characteristics. The queens are off, which makes things considerably more endgamey in one particular way. The king is more safe in the center of the board. Thank you for the follow. Look forward to seeing you next time. And feel free to join our Discord before you turn in. There's my link. If you have Discord, feel free to join. So the king is on d8, and for many beginners of chess, they're like, yes, I ruined their castling. Now I have the advantage. It's time to attack. But then they reach for their queen and find it's not there. How are we going to attack their king, right? We can give them some checks, but those checks, ironically, just make it better for them because it just gives them moves to put their king in a really safe position. But at the same time, it doesn't have a full endgame character because the king is also somewhat unsafe. Some games have gone with an attack against the king. For example, knight c3 is a critical move. And there are 2 moves here, king e8 and bishop d7. I mean, maybe not just 2, but these are the only 2 I've looked at, I have to admit. I'm not really a theoretician here. But bishop d7, with the idea of bringing the king to the queen side, is sometimes met by a move like rook d1 and then knight g5. So this is attacking chess. This is stuff that happens in the middle game. We're pursuing some weak points, and we're not going to just kind of maneuver until we eventually win them. It can get really sharp. So after bishop e8, b3, b6, bishop b2, bishop e7, this is kind of a normal course of play where we're completing our development in some unusual way. I saw a couple interesting games with h3 where it took on more of an attacking character after g4. But this is definitely not like endgame play. Like the move g4, it's creating long-term weaknesses, but it doesn't really matter. The position is still perfectly fine after like knight g5 because initiative plays a major role. The activity of the pieces just in a more basic way matters. It's not necessarily that important to be attacking specific targets, but the pieces just need to be doing something at this stage. It's the middle game, basically. So it has a weird combination of middle game and end game. So it's quite natural to ask the question, when does the end game actually begin?